Hey guys, it's Lohpally here with another video, and today we're going to be tackling the top 3 champions that you should one-trick in going into Season 11. So, kind of tackling some of the archetypes of champions that are really good in this current meta are tanks, roamers, and enchanters. So we're going to be tackling a one-trick that you should play for each of these roles depending on your playstyle and what champions you like playing. So, let's start off with the standard. Tank, please. Stand in front of us, create durability, and create some space, and look for engages. This also means that this champion can roam and move around the map a decent amount too. So, let's jump into our first one trick of the season, which is going to be Leona. And the reason why Leona comes in as one of the best tank one tricks to play right now is because her flexibility. Because of the fact that your W has a early mitigation damage threshold, plus it scales with bonus armor and MR, that means that she not only is strong in the early game, but she's great in the late game. On top of this, she does a lot of damage in the early stages of the game with her sunlight procs and all of her spells, meaning that she can actually do a lot of the damage when you go for all-ins and 2v2 kills. On top of the fact that she's really tanky and has multiple ways of locking people down on short cooldowns, she comes in as the premium tank. Now, one of the great things about Leona is the fact that her Q is a short cooldown, only 5 seconds, which actually means that she beats out other tanks when you're hitting each other because you'll have multiple CCs for them, whereas they don't. On top of that, you can stagger your W and Aftershock, which means you have 2 stages of being tanky. Also, whenever you hit level 6, it's very easy for you to engage from long distance, which means your dependency on flash is very low since the ulti range is super far away. On top of that, you have lots of different combos like Zenith Blade stunning and then ulting, or ulting, Zenith Blading and stunning, or flashing and stunning, and then using your ultimate also. You can kind of see that there's a lot of flexibility for every situation, which means that if you have a lot of built-in experience, then you can kind of figure out when you should do each of the things. On top of that, if you really practice a lot, you can actually press Zenith Blade at the start of the cast and break the cast by flashing instantaneously, which means that you can almost always get a guaranteed kill at level 6, especially if the enemy laner doesn't have cleanse. Now that we've tackled what we like about this champion, we'll go into a little bit of a setup since itemization is kind of a new thing for the game. Now, the mythic is usually the most important thing when it comes to building your champion, so for the most part, I like locking on this champion since it's very flexible with how much shielding and mitigation it gives. The aura is nice for your extra teammates to keep them alive, but it's not the only thing you can build right now. You can also go the Turbo Chem Tank if you're looking for a really heavy engage, or if you have a lot of frequency of fighting and you find yourself frontlining a lot and maybe even being able to deal a decent amount of damage, you can opt into the Sunfire, but it's a little bit excessive in that sense. After that, pretty much you should just always go Zeke's right now. The biggest problem with tanks in general is they tend to run out of mana. So solving that with a Glacial Shroud like item like Zeke's is really good. It goes well with the fact that you lock people down and allows you to connect to somebody. Plus the stat budget is just really powerful. We always love that ability haste in the early stages, the extra mana so that if you have a longer fight you're always good, and the extra lockdown synergy works really well with this champion. After that, it's mostly just kind of up to you depending on what tank stats you need. Randuin's is great if there's a lot of attack crit champions. Maybe you feel like you should just get a Gargoyle Stoneplate third because there's a lot of mixed damage and you want a shield. There's a lot of options when it comes to that, or you can even go something like Knight's Vow, which I'm not that crazy about, but if there's a lot of assassins diving and maybe Locket's not quite enough to keep your teammate alive, that is super important, then you can attach that to him too. All in all, Leona is going to be definitely the best champion for you to be spamming in Season 11 if you love playing tanks. The ability to roam and set up ganks, also to have a ton of CC, and she comes packing with a ton of damage, and scales with itemization, which is something like a champion like Nautilus struggles with a lot, means that she is the premium tank. And this is what you should be playing if you're a tank bud and you want to climb in Season 11, one-tricking something. Next up is Bard. Now, Bard comes in as one of the kind of offshoots of enchanters and tanks, and the reason for this is Bard can roam around the map really well and print experience. Now, for those who don't know, it's usually about 500 to 800 gold, depending on how much armor and MR a character gets per level. That means that because Bard can move around the map, create a lot of pressure for your soul laners, and still get experience through his chimes, means that Bard is actually the best roaming champion for you to be playing. on top of the fact that he moves really well between the map because of his portal, and the fact that he prints EXP, which means your AD carry can get ahead, makes him a great roamer. So for all those people who like to run around a lot, create a lot of pressure in other lanes, maybe you're not a big 2v2er, Bard is going to be your premium character for this. On top of that, one of the great things about Bard in general is that it's kind of a plug and play when it comes to runes and itemization. You can go things like Electrocute, Guardian, Hail of Blades. There's a lot of options when it comes to this champion, both build paths on runes and itemization. So because of that, Bard is super flexible, not only with roaming and creating pressure, but just itemization choice in general. Now, for the most part, most people will build Mandate on this champion, and it's usually just fine since it procs off of your Meep auto attacks. Now, if you're not looking for nearly as much damage and maybe you want to be a bit tankier, Locket is actually really great. Maybe there's a lot of assassins in the enemy team, Talon, Zed, etc., Kha'Zix, and you just don't want to die instantly. The Locket stats are really great. You can also go for kind of the old school build too off of that, which is like Dead Man's Plate and Rapid Fire Cannon. These are all completely fine builds, and you can kind of plug and play whatever you want for this champion, which is why this champion is so powerful. The flexibility in build path and the fact that you can impact soul lanes without falling behind an EXP means that you're basically generating gold for your team all the time while moving around the map. So if you like roaming, you like moving around the map, and you're not a big 2v2 player, maybe you don't want to play a champion that's super tanky and has to always go in, Bard is the champion that you should be playing in Season 11. Plus, on top of that, there's a lot of nuance on this champion, like hitting the stuns and the distance for your ultimate. That means that your time invested in this champion will pay heavy dividends because you become greater and greater at landing these on a more consistent basis. So, finally, without further ado, the enchanter that you should be one-tricking in Season 11, which is going to be NAMI. Now, the reason why NAMI comes in as the best enchanter to be one-tricking is because the more time you invest in a champion, the better you become at hitting skill shots and using all of the mechanics and nuances of the champion. Now, NAMI is really hard for a lot of people to pick up just because of the bubble and wave and how slow they are. Now, once you get used to these, it actually means that you can score a ton of kills and have a ton of kill pressure with an enchanter, which is relatively unusual since most enchanters want to kite back and peel, but a champion like NAMI can actually score a lot of kills this way. On top of that, because she has sustain rather than shielding, you don't always have to have perfect reaction time when it comes to damage incoming, and you can just always heal up. Compounding into this, she has a lot of flexibility when it comes to itemization, despite what most people would actually say. Now, although Mandate is pretty much the premium build path that most people do because it will proc off of your E, buffing someone and having them auto attack, you can actually use Moonstone and Locket incredibly well too. Kind of like when Bard is dealing with things like assassins, it's really great to do this also on champions like NAMI. Maybe you're playing against a Kha'Zix or a Zed or something and you just can't seem to deal with him and he's one-shotting you. A great option on the table is going Locket on this champion, and it will still help you provide good utility for the rest of your team. A shield is never bad, plus the defensive stats will allow you to keep yourself alive, and not getting one shot will give you a lot of pressure. On top of that, if they're trying to still kill you and you have Locket and you survive, that means you're absorbing so much damage and pressure in the fights that you're actually buying your team a lot of space. And this is really good for this champion. Now, also, I've been testing out Moonstone a lot, and I have to say I'm a big fan if there's not too many assassins or a lot of damage in the game. So maybe you have 1 to 2 tanks, and maybe they have 1 to 2 tanks, and you're kind of fighting front to back, which is basically where both teams kind of collide to each other and just hitting whatever's in front of them. Moonstone is actually really great, since you usually want to sustain and keep the fights going for a long period of time anyway. Moonstone synergizes well with this and can continuously compound on your heals. On top of that, because there's so many ways for you to buff up your teammates and keep yourself in combat, it's very easy to not have it fall off. I'm a big fan of all 3 of these items, and this is why the flexibility of NAMI means that you'll get so much value one-tricking because you'll have a diverse amount of builds to deal with a diverse amount of situations in the game, and not a one-size-fits-all kind of scenario. So that is why we look at NAMI as the best enchanter to one-trick in this new season coming up. So that concludes our best champions to one-trick for Season 11. So if you like any of these champions, make sure to start practicing and spamming those games, since one-tricking is really great for climbing and gaining elo for the new season. Best of luck on the Rift, guys. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment in the section below, and hit that bell and whistle. I'll see you next time. Peace.